Under the haunting glow of a pale moon, the massive Vickers Wellington Bomber from the 75th Squadron ascended over the Zuider Zee and the Dutch shoreline, hastening homeward after a triumphant raid on Münster. The crew's euphoria, however, was abruptly broken as a sly German Bf-110 night fighter appeared from thin air beneath the British bomber. The Luftwaffe Predator rapidly closed the gap, unleashing a torrent of lethal cannon fire. The barrage pierced the fuel tank within the starboard wing, igniting a wild blaze that threatened to consume the aircraft. The crew desperately attempted to put out the flames using fire extinguishers aimed through a hole in the fuselage, but the fire continued growing, threatening to swallow the entire aircraft. With few options left, pilot Reuben Widdowson ordered the crew to bail out. But the plane and the men inside were not ready to give up. With its unique geodetic airframe, the sturdy plane miraculously continued to fly, enduring the fiery punishment. This gave pilot James Allen Ward an idea. Ward volunteered to clamber out of the flying behemoth and navigate to the burning wing, smothering the fire from the exterior. Donning his parachute and climbing out of the bomber, he was immediately nearly blown away by the extreme winds. With white-knuckled resolve, he clung firmly to the airframe. As long as the aircraft continued to fly, he would continue holding and doing everything in his power to reach the growing inferno. Lethal simplicity. Regarded by its pilots as a stark and ungainly beast, the Vickers Wellington garnered praise for its durability. Conceived in the years preceding World War II, the Wellington was outpaced by the advanced range and swiftness of the war's later bombers. Despite this, it carved a crucial niche within the Royal Air Force, earning the love of British airmen for its resilient build, efficacy, and unyielding spirit. The humble twin-engine day bomber, with its deceptively simple design and battle-hardened prowess, claimed the distinction of being the sole British bomber produced throughout the entirety of the war and in greater numbers than any other British-built bomber. In one of the first large-scale air battles of World War II, the untested Wellingtons played a pivotal role. 24 bombers swooped down upon the Battle of the Heligoland Bight, intent on decimating the German fleet stationed off the coast of Wilhelmshaven. To their surprise, the warships had already retreated to the sanctuary of the harbor. Instead, the RAF bombers were ambushed by a swarm of German fighters, who descended upon the 22 unescorted Wellingtons like thunder. The confrontation inflicted a heavy toll of 12 Wellingtons. Yet, in the face of overwhelming adversity, the remaining pilots and their aircraft survived and even took down 4 German fighters. By 1943, the Wellington had become the backbone of the British bomber force, accompanying the British troops from the early bombings of Germany to the Battle of the Atlantic, the African theater, and ultimately, the Greek Civil War. Secret under the hood. The capable twin-engined long-range medium bomber boasted an unmistakable profile with its slender high-aspect ratio wings, cavernous fuselage, and lofty single fin. Propelled by various engines and propeller pairings, such as the robust Bristol Hercules and the esteemed Rolls-Royce Merlin, the aircraft held a crew of 5. As the war continued, subsequent models featured heating and de-icing equipment, alongside increased bombing capacities. To protect itself, the Wellington brandished defensive armaments in the form of forward and tail turret gun positions and a retractable revolving ventral turret. Due to its soaring cruising speeds, the Wellington required fully enclosed, power-operated turrets, designed and furnished independently. These turrets initially employed Nash and Thompson control systems and were armed with a duo of .303 Browning machine guns. One of Wellington's most innovative features, which would give it its legendary resilience, was its geodetic construction. A geodetic airframe was an innovative method of aircraft construction, pioneered by British aeronautical engineer Barnes Wallis in the 1930s. The core concept revolves around the intersection of 2 geodesic arcs on a curving surface, such as the fuselage, in a manner that enables the torsional load on each arc to counterbalance that on the other. In aircraft featuring this design, the fuselage and wings were crafted from duralumin alloy channel beams, meticulously assembled into a robust framework. Wooden battens were affixed to the metal lattice, providing an anchor for the doped linen skin of the aircraft. This intricate metal latticework imbued the aircraft with a lightweight yet incredibly robust structure. A primary advantage of geodetic construction was its enhanced internal volume for a given streamlined shape. Being one of the first combat operational aircraft to use this ambitious framework, the Wellington was endowed with an uncanny ability to withstand damage and return home when other aircraft would have failed, earning it a reputation for invulnerability. The geodetic wings also facilitated a unique fuel housing method, incorporating 3 fuel tanks in each wing, nestled securely between the front and rear spars. The unique airframe construction also gave the aircraft a tremendous advantage when building it, as the light geodetic structures could be put together swiftly and reliably. To boost morale, the RAF made a film where a group of primarily female workers assembled an entire Wellington bomber in just 24 hours. Ablaze. On the night of July 7th, 1941, the Wellington's unique durability would be put to the test. Aboard the bomber, New Zealander Sergeant Ward served as the second pilot of a Wellington bomber of the No. 75 Squadron. The British airmen were returning from a daring raid on the German city of Münster. They felt reassured, believing the worst part was over. As the massive warplane soared over the Zuider Zee at 13,000 feet, the aircraft was suddenly ambushed by a relentless German Bf-110 that unleashed a barrage of cannon shells and incendiary rounds from below. The bullet storm pierced the bomber. One of the bullets found the rear gunner's foot. Despite his injury, he retaliated, sending the enemy fighter spiraling downwards, seemingly out of control. But the fight was far from over. A fire erupted in the Wellington's near starboard engine, igniting fuel from a ruptured pipe. The blaze threatened to engulf the entire wing in a matter of minutes. Desperate, the crew punctured a hole in the fuselage and attempted to quell the flames with fire extinguishers and coffee from their flasks, but the flames would not budge. Several minutes had passed, and somehow the bomber's fuselage continued to hold, buying the airmen precious time to devise a plan to save their lives. With the situation rapidly deteriorating and no place or conditions to attempt an emergency landing in the area, pilot Reuben Widdowson ordered the crew to prepare to bail out. The decision was not easy. Parachuting from a high-altitude plane over enemy territory did not offer the best survival chances, but they were out of options. Rising to the occasion, Sergeant Ward volunteered to do the unthinkable: climb out of the flying plane and attempt to smother the fire using an engine cover serving as a makeshift cushion. The idea was bold, but the young airman was determined to try. Holding tight. Ward initially insisted on foregoing his parachute to minimize wind resistance. However, his crewmates opposed this idea and ultimately convinced him to wear it. Moreover, a rope was fastened to him as a safety measure in case he was swept off the warplane. With the assistance of his navigator, Sergeant Ward climbed through the narrow astrodome and donned his parachute. The pilot decelerated the aircraft as much as possible before Ward ventured into the night sky. Even at the bomber's reduced speed, the wind pressure assaulted Ward with an uncontainable force, unlike anything he had ever experienced. He later described facing the slipstream as, quote, being in a terrific gale, only worse than any gale I've ever known. Braving the elements, he tore through the fabric to create hand and footholds, exploiting existing gaps wherever possible. Defying the near-irresistible force of the slipstream from the air screw, Sergeant Ward descended 3 feet onto the wing and inched another 3 feet behind the engine. Undaunted by the relentless gusts and searing heat, Ward managed to extinguish the fire on the wing fabric before attempting to plug the hole with the engine cover. Yet, a powerful gust of wind snatched the cap from his grasp and blew it away. Exhausted but unyielding, Sergeant Ward turned back toward safety, each step threatening to send him spiraling into the abyss. The man returned to the plane, where his comrades stood astounded by what they had just witnessed. Miraculously, the fire had consumed the remaining fabric near the leaking pipe, effectively inhibiting further spread. In time, the residual flames burned themselves out. The night's ordeal, however, refused to end, as the accumulated fuel in the wing ignited in a fiery blaze upon nearing their destination. Mercifully, the flames quickly subsided as the plane slowed down for descent. Despite the bullets, the fires, and the extensive damage sustained, the resilience of the Wellington shone through, and they landed safely. Sergeant Ward had fearlessly extinguished the fire on the wing under the most treacherous conditions imaginable. In recognition of his extraordinary bravery and resolve, Ward received the Victoria Cross, the highest honor for a British serviceman. Meanwhile, the mighty Wellington would forever be remembered as an indestructible aircraft. Thank you for watching Dark Skies. For more unbelievable high-flying feats and epic wartime exploits, tap on your screen and check out our other Duck Documentaries channels. We publish new content regularly, so hit that notification bell and stay tuned for more.